Hello, welcome to my 4-part series on what happily married women know that the rest of women do not. And this is for part 4 of 4. Just gonna do a quick recap in case you want to go back. So the first one was the number one turnoff for men. Spoiler alert, it's also the number one turnoff for women, so check that out. The second one, part 2, was the one thing you can learn from your man. Part 3 was the reason most women will stay unhappy and not be happily married in their whole lives. And this one is called 3 Traits of Irresistible Women. So why should you care about how to be irresistible, right? You might feel that conditioning coming up going, oh, why should I do this big performance, blah, 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 right? He should treat me this and that. Now, let's flip it. If your man was paying attention to something that said how to be more attractive to women, how would you feel? Well, I mean, not women, but you're assuming he's faithful. You'd be like, yeah, hell yes, and it might be like stay in shape, manage your emotions, don't freak out at her, help her out, stuff like that. And you'd be like, awesome, sweet. So this is the woman version of that. And the reason that it's so valuable to know these things is because then you're not spreading your energy around to things that don't matter. So one of the things the world has lied to us about, this in the conditioning category, is that the only irresistible women are what happened to my focus here on the camera? Are the women in the top 5th percentile, the supermodels, the actresses, like they're irresistible. That's why people pay a lot of money to look at their pictures or just celebrate them, right? And that's not true. That's not true at all. I'm talking about irresistible to be with over the long term. Anybody can excite someone who's new. We've all fallen in love and fallen out of love and known that, or, had an infatuation. It's not meaningful. A truly irresistible woman is one who can sustain attraction over a lifetime. And if you look at these women who are considered the most desirable, they're not even doing that. Their marriages are falling apart and come back together over and over. You could argue that, it's because they're not attracted to their husbands anymore, which is often the case too. But the point is that the looks don't make it work. Being super beautiful doesn't make your marriage work. So these traits, the reason that they're important is because you won't be focusing on, oh, I need to lose 5 pounds. That's why my husband's not paying attention to me. Stupid stuff like that, which has nothing to do with it. Taking care of yourself physically is important, but it's been overemphasized for women. And what has been underemphasized is the internal traits that make for a lifetime of attraction, a lifetime of passion, a lifetime of chemistry. So the number one trait is emotional maturity. What does that look like? Emotional maturity includes, number one, self-responsibility. That means I take responsibility for my own emotions. I don't dump them on other people. I don't blame other people for how I feel. I don't lash out when I'm angry. I mean, everybody makes mistakes, but to your husband, you don't dump on him. You don't operate in such a way that when you're angry, he has to fix it and he has to apologize or you're going to stay mad at him. That is emotional maturity. It's manipulation. It's a mess. Okay. But a lot of women, a lot of us, I mean, men too, we're not talking about men today. Men have emotional immaturity issues as well, because many of us were raised by emotionally immature parents. So we haven't had this model to us. So this is something that at the bedrock you can do for yourself that not only will make you more attractive to your husband, it'll make you more attractive to everyone. It'll make you a better mom. It'll make you a better friend. It'll make you a better daughter, sister. And the best thing about emotional maturity is you take your power back. So emotionally immature people are victims of other people's behavior and other people's actions. Therefore, life is very frustrating and situations are very anxiety provoking because you don't know how people will act. And therefore, you're going to feel a kind of way you don't want to feel. And then you're in turmoil, whether that's your dad saying things he always says or your mother-in-law making comments. I can say for myself, as I went through this growth journey from someone who is emotionally immature and triggered by a lot of things to someone who has emotional distance and capacity to separate other people's behaviors from my reactions, that when I spend time with, I don't know what to call them, difficult people or people who are very emotionally immature, people who make comments, about my parenting or about, things that used to really cut me. I used to just be mad, hurt, just emotionally messed up for a long time. And now I can go, oh, the things that person is saying has to do with them. It doesn't have to do with me. And even if I don't like it, I can find a way to communicate that that's, fits with my values. I can decide how much leeway to give certain people based on how much I love them, how close they are to me familially, how much respect I have from them, right? So if a random person off the street is going to say rude stuff to me, I'll just say bye. Whereas if I've got extended family or in-laws who are sometimes out of pocket with their comments, I can weather that differently and I can manage it differently. So when you learn emotional maturity, it gives you this incredible peace of mind that you're not afraid of your emotions anymore. You don't feel trapped in your emotions. You don't feel like, oh my God, I'm going to feel so angry and that'll be too painful. I'm going to feel too sad and I'll be stuck in that. People who are emotionally mature know how to self-regulate. They understand their own nervous system and they know how to bring it down when it's gone up. This is a life skill that every single person on earth should have, and most people were never taught. So emotional maturity is a big part of what I teach. It's the bedrock of all of it. It's why the other tactics don't work in your marriage when you try to be some kind of way, because when you get triggered, if you don't know how to handle that trigger, you don't know how to be with yourself when you're triggered, you're going to spill out onto your husband and it's going to end up in a trigger spiral and you're going to fight or you're going to distance from each other. So number 1 trait is emotional maturity. Number 2 is vulnerability. True vulnerability is not possible unless you're emotionally mature. I used to think that vulnerability was falling apart, just dumping. And it can be, but healthy vulnerability comes from a grounded, rooted place where you can say, these are my emotions and I'm going to share them with you. I think of them as babies. I might have an angry baby or a sad baby or a lonely baby, hungry baby. Well, hungry's not a feeling, but it can produce feelings. And someone who has genuine vulnerability can ask if you want to hold my baby with me. Like, hey, my baby's really sad. May I hand you my baby? And then that person can say, oh yeah, I can see that that's a sad baby. I'm going to hold them and give them some care and attention. Whereas an emotionally immature person will just say, the baby is screaming. Can't you see it? Do something about it, right? It goes straight to the criticism and control and manipulations. And that's not vulnerability. Vulnerability is just, hey, I feel sad. I have this emotion I would like to share with you. Vulnerability is irresistible. It's irresistible to everyone, not just men. Brene Brown's talk on vulnerability, which you should watch, is in the top 5 in the world, and it went completely viral because she is so beautiful in the way she expresses her own vulnerability that everybody loves her. How can you not? She talks about her muffin top on her jeans. She talks about how she sweats on stage. She talks about how she talks to herself. She brings out that internal dialogue. And we feel seen and we feel safe around someone who's vulnerable because they're not hiding anything. They're not protecting themselves from you. The only way you can be vulnerable is if it's okay if somebody doesn't receive it properly or is unkind to you. If you're afraid of that, you can't be vulnerable. So vulnerability takes incredible courage and strength in your body and in your mind and in your spirit to offer to someone. If you can have emotional maturity and be vulnerable, you open infinite depths of possible intimacy and emotional intimacy and passion between you and your husband. The third trait of irresistible woman is worthiness, or we can call that confidence. And what that means is she knows that she's worthy of the royal treatment. She knows that she's one of those women for whom men love to help her. Men treat her well. She is delighted in. People love her presence. People just like to have her around. She doesn't have to do things to get love. She doesn't have to clean the dishes and help someone out and bring the cookies and fix everything to be loved. She is just worthy for who she is. She knows she's beautiful. She knows she's wonderful. She doesn't crave validation. All of us love validation. There's nothing wrong with that. but she doesn't crave it desperately because she doesn't actually believe it herself. A worthy woman receives compliments as confirmation of what she already knows. And she says, thank you. A woman who does not have that either rejects it by saying, oh no, this old thing. Oh, but you look wonderful. Oh, but I'm, they take little stabs at themselves. Or they say, oh, you're too sweet. You didn't have to. And make it seem like that person's only saying it because how nice they are. When you have worthiness and confidence, you are a magnet. People can smell that you're not trying to take things from them because you have your things. You are enough. You are not desperately seeking to be filled. Your bucket. You might have kids who they talk about being a bucket filler, somebody who brings joy and happiness to others. People who don't have worthiness and confidence have holes in their bucket. It doesn't matter how much someone pours into you. It'll keep going out the bottom. You'll keep needing more. You'll never feel good enough because your own internal worthiness and confidence is not solid. Now, none of these things have to be perfect, okay? We can get in that idea as women that, well, I do yell and scream sometimes. Sometimes I freak out. Or, I'm not totally vulnerable. There's things I'm shy about. Or, I do get insecure about this or that body part. Okay, it's no problem. This is a journey and a path where you go, what if I was emotionally mature? What if I was vulnerable? And what if I dared to think of myself as amazing without having to change anything? To just tell myself that I'm irresistible. These are all mindset shifts that I do with my clients, that I've done with myself. I used to have much lower self-confidence. I did not think I was one of those women. I thought other women were those women, and they obviously had the opposite body type to me and the opposite personality to me, right? I had made it so that my type was second tier and their type was top tier. This is all just a mental game I was playing with myself to make sense of my lack of worthiness, my insecurities, my inherent wounds from childhood. My childhood wasn't, desperate. I believe we all have, not all of us. Many of us, most of us have some kind of small t trauma, some kind of wounding because the world's not perfect. Everybody responds to it differently. But when we can heal that with the emotional maturity, practicing vulnerability, and daring to believe in ourselves, regardless of our imperfections, including our imperfections, we become irresistible to others and to our husband. And what that does for us is allows us to feel desired. It allows us to feel wanted and loved all the time. Because no partner is going to be able to reinforce that to you every second of the day, are they? Even if they were the most doting, loving person in the world, they wouldn't be able to prove to you in every second that you were both loved and desired all the time. But if you know that you're a woman who is loved and desired, then you can receive all of it, whether he's there or not there, whether he's doing it or not doing it, whether it's a good day or a bad day. You just know you're loved and desired because that's who you are. Think of how peaceful that is. Think of how much you can just relax and not have to perform and not have to worry about if you have a fight or things don't go well. You know it'll go back because that's who you are. You know you'll find your way through. Well, that was so much fun doing this series with you. If you want to dive deeper into these topics, please check out my Happily Married Woman program. You will be amazed how much you can shift just by taking on some of these beliefs and practices that I teach, by meeting your inner child, by understanding your emotional landscape, by taking yourself seriously. You're wonderful. You're worth it. Invest in yourself. Nobody can take that away from you. The sense of being an irresistible woman, nobody can take that away from you. That is something you get to keep till the day you die. And if you want one-on-one coaching where I'm going to personally hold space for you and draw out your greatness and your worthiness and your sweet vulnerability, then message me and we'll set up a free consultation. I can't wait to hear from you.